Okay, welcome. I'd like to call this March 11, 2019 council meeting to order. If you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Heffinger.
Here.
Lamb.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Shields.
Here.
Simpson. Starcher.
Here.
Coin.
Here. Reading of the minutes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
I move that the minutes from the regular meeting of February 25th, 2019 as prepared and submitted by the clerk be approved at this time.
Second.
Discussion on the approval of the minutes. Will the clerk please call the roll on the approval of the minutes?
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Starcher.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Reports of standing committees. The Finance Committee met prior to this council meeting and will meet again 2 weeks from now. Prior to the next council meeting, we discussed many items. Health, safety, and sanitation. Public properties, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, no report this evening.
Special legislation, bless you. Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no meeting scheduled, and I know this is starting to sound a bit redundant, but we are still working on the LGBT legislation, and sometime soon we'll have it back in committee.
Streets and sidewalks, Mr. Heffinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, Streets and Sidewalks will be meeting with the council as a whole tomorrow to discuss the South Broadway Brick Road reconstruction project. We'll be meeting with residents and anyone else from the community that would like to come hear what they plan to do with these brick roads.
Thank you. Water and Utilities Committee, Mr. Starcher.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report, no meeting scheduled at this time.
Emerging Technologies Committee, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled and nothing to report.
Thank you. Request for council action. We have a few for finance. We have 1948 budget amendments, 1949 then and now for Huntington Bank for the municipal court, 1950 amendment to contract with Ohio Regional Development Corp for fiscal year 18 CHIP grant, 1951 fitness room addition, letter of engagement and letter of intent, in 1952 the request for real estate swap. Reports of municipal officers. Mayor Hamwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. On March 4th at 5:30, I attended the annual Medina County Health Department Advisory Council meeting. I'm the city representative on that, and I thought it was appropriate for me to give you a bit of an update. So the Medina County Health Department received national recognition for their programs. They're only one of 26 health departments recognized out of the 108 health departments in the state. So that was a good recognition for them. The recovery efforts, the Medina County Health Department is working as co-chair of the Opiate Task Force, as well as Project Dawn in collaboration with the Medina County ADAM Board. And what this is training and actual medication for the Narcan to be distributed to families and I guess roommates of people who fear that somebody may overdose on an opiate. Living Well, MedinaCounty.com. It is an interactive website for discussions, health-related discussions and questions. And again, we were selected. The Medina County Health Department was selected one of 5 in the nation to launch this Living Well Medina County site. And then in 2019, they will be planning for a strategic plan review and update for the Medina County Health Department. The 2018 Medina Annual Report was distributed to council, department heads, and the media and public on February 27, 2019. I'm proud of the work and the efforts of each of the staff members, as well as many agencies and organizations that we collaborate with to make Medina special. There's also a copy posted on our city website under news, and that website is www.medinaoh.org. And once there's a chance to review it, I and my staff would be happy to answer any questions after council's and the public's review of the report. And then last but not least, this is a bit ahead of time, but we're just trying to get people prepared. The parking deck outside on the south side of City Hall here, between the Sully's patio and the Porter's Shoes, the construction of that parking deck is going to commence this May. As a result of that, parking is going to be very limited, both at the City Hall lot as well as the entire lot there between Sully's Patio and Porter Shoes. So with that in mind, there's available long-term lots at the southeast corner of West Liberty and South Elmwood on the north side of the Moose Club. There's a lot on the west side of the 200 block of South Elmwood across from what used to be Napa. That's between Smith Road and Washington Street, as well as the existing parking deck behind the Common Pleas Court. We expect this project will last from May likely into December, so there's going to be quite a period of time with limited parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Durham, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have my usual reminder that city residents are required to file city income tax. We have forms here at the City Hall, and they're also available online at Rita, Ohio. That's their website. Rita collects the income tax for us. And finally, we will have a couple opportunities if people would like help with their forms. The representatives from Rita will be here. They will be at the Rec Center on Thursday, this Thursday, March 14th from 9 to 4, and then on Saturday, April 6th from 11:30 till 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huber, Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Chief Kinney, Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Mendel, Planning and Community Development Director.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Crumley, Fire Department.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Fire Department has no report this time.
Thank you, Mr. Wright, Recreation Center Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rec Center has a report. Just a couple quick updates from the Medina Rec. As the basketball leagues for the Medina Rec start winding down this weekend and we'll have the last games, I'd like to thank all the community who participated and made this another great year for the league. Also, I want to thank the members and patrons for their patience in the scheduling of the field house for these past 10 weeks. It's been hectic. So the next scheduled Rec Advisory Board meeting will be Thursday, March 21st at 7:30 at the Rec Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Worley, Parks and Recreation Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Parks Department is hiring seasonal laborers for this summer. Applications can be found on the City of Medina's website, www.medinaoh.org, under the Civil Service. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gladys, Building Official.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not have a report.
Mr. Patton, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to give the public some heads up. The city will be completing a project to rebuild the South Elmwood Bridge starting this spring. Starting next month, there will be some detours around that area. As we get closer, we'll give you some more information about those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piccoli, Service Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier this evening in Border Control, we awarded the water well sealing and abandonment project to Moody's of Dayton Incorporated and GM Baker and Son Company. This award is contingent upon the proper licensures, insurances, and bonding being in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Notices, communications, and petitions. There are none. Unfinished business. We have none. Introduction of visitors. Members of the public will be permitted the opportunity to speak on any issue or concern which pertains to the city during the portion of the council agenda devoted to introduction of visitors. All comments shall be directed to the chair, and a reasonable time limit of approximately 5 minutes will be imposed. If there is a group, please appoint a spokesperson. Speakers should approach the front right microphone and state their name and address so it can be entered into the minutes. Members of the public will be afforded the opportunity to comment on other portions of the meeting as determined by the chair or by a vote of the majority of council members present. Is there anybody that wishes to address council at this time? Ms. Sharp?
May I turn on the light?
I don't think that works.
It does not work.
It's just decoration.
My name is Suzanne Sharp, and my address is 326 West Washington Street, Medina, Ohio. Good evening, President Coyne, members of council. I would like to express for the record my sincere appreciation for your cooperation in allowing me time to pursue options for saving from demolition the historically significant Sophia Huntington Parker homestead at 347 North Huntington Street. A great amount of community support has been gathered through the Facebook group page called Preserve Medina History, Help Rescue the 183-year-old Huntington House. So if you haven't joined yet, please do. As of today, we're up to 107 members, so gratitude from them also. And I also have had a lot of press coverage, which has been positive on this topic. And thank you for the contribution to those articles and interviews, Mayor Hanwell, and also to the school superintendent, Aaron Zabel. Everyone involved really has been very cooperative, so thank you about that. So my goal this evening, Councilman Mayor Hanwell, is just to request that your designees and I sit down soon and come to a mutually agreeable project scope and timeline for the Huntington House project. Perhaps crafting an MOU or a letter of intent will show that we're maybe all on the same page. An agreement by all parties would serve to demonstrate that I have your support when volunteers and donations are sought relative to the rehab and restoration of the house. I do intend to pursue a number of different options, and my ultimate goal will remain to preserve and protect this important historical structure for community-wide use and benefit. So please understand, I am committed to making this a successful project. And in order to ensure success, I've begun the articles of incorporation and intend to file for tax exempt status as a 501c3 charitable educational public benefit organization. And we are called Building Blocks Preservation Group. I've also been in conversation with Michelle Powell of Let's Make a Difference about working together on this effort, since she has successfully run a nonprofit in Ward 1 for the past 19 years. And the project seems destined to both of us. So I'll keep the city informed as I work toward making this a win-win for all of us. So thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Lamb, you had a follow-up?
Well, just two things I wanted to add. You know, you can sit it or stand, or stand. Or stand. Okay. And one of them is, it's exciting for us, I think, that you have engaged in the process, you know, to try to save this house, and it's understandable, I think, for us, a lot of people in town anyway. I've tried to think, how many times have I driven down Huntington? And I've looked at or I've been at Union Square, I've gone to Mallard Park, and I've seen the house. And I knew it was old. But I was, of course, one of a group of people who agreed to the project that we're doing, which is beneficial to the schools in the city as well, and the community, without really knowing, the history of the house and the significance of it, because I knew the street was named Huntington, but I didn't really know that the house was built by Huntington, and that's the reason the street got the name. And it's also interesting, I think, to recognize just how far we have come as a community with regard to restoration and preservation. And, the response of the city, when you made the request of could we move this house because it matters, and the response was one of, you know what, we're going to work with you, and we're going to have a reasonable timeline. We're going to try to make it work, because that is what this community is about. And we've come a long way. We have come a really long way. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the sign on Interstate 71 that says Historic City of Medina. I think that's what it says, Historic City of Medina. In 1982, I changed the city letterhead so that the top of it read, the Historic City of Medina. And City Council called a committee meeting in which I had to explain to them why I had changed the letterhead to read the Historic City of Medina, because they felt it was not appropriate. It should have stayed the City of Medina. And now we take that for granted, as well as we take for granted that if there's an opportunity to save something meaningful, we will do that or we'll help with that. So I think on behalf of the administration is really indicated a real willingness to help make this work. And I just wanted to share one thing before I stop. And I was reading through this book that I have, just kind of arbitrarily reading one night. It's the 1981 history of Medina. It's the 1881 history of Medina County. And I didn't know anything about the Huntingtons. So I looked up the Huntingtons in the book. And I thought, this is what you can learn from just an instance like this. And I'm going to take a second, just read you part of this. And it is that Peter R. Huntington was a farmer. He was born in Norwich, Connecticut in 1809, and he lived there for 16 years. Then he came to Ohio. He took a water route via New York City, Albany, Buffalo, and Cleveland, and he rode with a stranger to Medina County, where he lived with his brother-in-law until 1827. He then went to Cleveland and worked on the government pier, and in the fall he went back to Connecticut and worked on a farm. The following winter, he spent with his brother in New York, working during the summer on a farm in New Jersey. Then he returned to Connecticut and worked on a farm until 1832. On February 22nd, 1834, he married Miss Jane Simmons of New York, who was then visiting her sister in Ohio. After the marriage, he bought 100 acres of land, the same on which he now resides. He occupied the place until 1836 and has lived on the same ever since. Miss Huntington died April 1st, 1878. Of their 5 children, but one is living, Sophia, who lives on the old homestead. There's this history there's a real story of the humanity of a place. You know, once you know about it, it just gives it a better life, and it tells us about the history of where we live. And so whenever you drive down Huntington Street now, you kind of know, well, this was somebody who came here multiple times and bought 100 acres. And it was, I think, his daughter who donated the land where the Pythian sisters' home was. So when you talk about it being a significant house, yeah, it would be a good thing to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council at this time? Okay, introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. We have Resolution 3919, a resolution requesting the Medina County Auditor to certify total current tax valuation and a dollar amount of revenue that would be generated from the renewal of a 2.2 mills and an increase of 1 mill for the operation of an ambulance and emergency medical service.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields?
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and resolution. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a redo of the ordinance we did a few weeks ago. There were some updates from our previous ordinance, and the emergency clause is to get back on the timeline that we were on.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? I think we're going to have more information as this goes along, so we don't want to keep rehashing it. So I think there's going to be a program on the cable TV that discusses this for all the residents to review, so that'll be very helpful. Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Shields.
Yes.
Starcher.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Starcher.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Resolution 39-19 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 40-19, an ordinance adopting an updated city-owned electronics device policy for the city of Medina.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Mayor Hanwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The city is required under the public records law to maintain the public records for a period of time by archiving them. So we've had this this ordinance in place for electronic devices, and what we simply did is added 2 sentences. The first being, any and all text messages sent or received via the city-issued phone will be stored and retained through the city's archiving vendor. And the second was a social media retention that states all commentary and or posts made in response to social media used by the city of Medina will be stored and retained by the city's archiving vendor. So the city of Medina had to enter into a contract to preserve these records as required by the Ohio Public Records Law, and we respectfully request council's adoption of the update to the city-owned electronic device policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion or comment on the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Starcher.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Ordinance 40-19 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 41-19, an ordinance authorizing the payment of $36,373 to Software Solutions, Inc., SSI, for the software maintenance of the finance and service departments accounting system.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the finance utility billing and payroll software that we use in finance, and it's also used with other departments.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Starcher.
Yes.
Ordinance 41-19 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 4219, ordinance authorizing the purchase of 5 2020 Ford all-wheel drive police Interceptor Explorers from Lebanon Ford for the police department.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it at this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the ordinance. Chief Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is for the 5 Ford Interceptors. As discussed in Finance Committee, the reason we're purchasing 5 is we had 2 approved and ordered in 2018, and Ford canceled that order, would not fulfill that, saying that they were changing over their equipment to start manufacture of the 2020s. So we were forced to purchase the 2020s this year. It should be noted that Ford is giving us a $2,000 credit on 2 of those vehicles, the ones we ordered in 2018, for an overall discount of $4,000 on those vehicles. They are state bid, and we're requesting the emergency clause because we are behind on our rotation due to that delay from 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the emergency clause and or the ordinance? Will Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Starcher.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Starcher.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Ordinance 4219 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 4319, ordinance amending ordinance number 19518, passed December 10th, 2018, amendment to the 2019 budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only budget amendment this week is the for the police purchase that Chief Kinney just spoke about. This was a purchase order that they had last year. We did not spend it because of the canceled order, so we need to reappropriate that money to use it this year.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Starcher.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Ordinance 43-19 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 4419, ordinance of the Council of the City of Medina, Ohio, certifying that when a municipal obligation was incurred, there were sums lawfully appropriated in the funds to satisfy the obligation, and sufficient sums currently exist to satisfy this obligation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the ordinance. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for a purchase that was already made. We are asking for the emergency clause because otherwise we will incur finance charges. It was made by credit card.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause.
Starcher.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Shields.
Yes.
Starcher.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Ordinance 44-19 passes 6-0.
Council comments? Nobody?
Mr. President.
Mr. Heffinger.
Thank you. Earlier this year, we were asked as a council to take a lead role on our 5 common goals for our strategic plan for the city, and I picked up the role of effective government. And in our strategic plan, I wish I could say that word, it says effective government is to provide services that ensure a high quality of life, safety, and security through government that is fiscally responsible and accessible to all citizens. And I think what we do up here in the finance meeting is us trying to be fiscally responsible, but it says to be accessible to all citizens. And talking with the administration and members of the community, I believe that there was a gap of people's ability to talk to their local officials, especially if they didn't know them personally, because it is awkward to get up here and talk in front of a TV camera and a microphone and just ask a simple question. So working with the administration and the council, we've come up with a plan to go to the farmers markets this summer twice a month, and a member of the administration will be there in one of the committees or that they run, departments, sorry, and then a member of council will also be there at the same time. So we will be at the farmers market the 2nd and 4th Saturday of each month for a couple hours each morning. The first one will be May 11th, and I will be there with Mr. Nino Piccoli, and we will be there to answer any questions. It's just 2 months away. If you have anything about the service department or the council, or even if it doesn't even apply to either of us, we could always write it down, take your question, and find the answer for you. Is the goal to help be a better part of the community in communicating what it is that we're doing here every single day. So again, that'll be starting May 11th will be the first one, and we'll do the second and fourth Saturday of each month. Somebody from the council and the administration will be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further council comments? Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned.